Hello and welcome to Cage Fighting. It's your main man, Andy Gillies here. For the third time we're trying to record this after many an issue last night, but we are back.
Hello everybody, Matt Guy here. It is Mondays. I don't like Mondays. Tell me why. But Stu, you introduce yourself, and I've got a question to get right off the bat.
Hello, I am Stu. Hello.
I am what I consider a fantastic husband, but this has been my problem only mere minutes before recording. I really, really needed a wee, and Sam is
Let's just go.
running a bath. Now, the person full of empathy in me was like, I can't go and have a wee while she's running a bath because, it's going to taint the aura of the room. Even if it's just a wee, not like I'm doing, dropping a deuce, but it's just going to taint the aura of the room. So then my options were, do I hold it in? Or option B, do I piss in the garden? Or do I piss in a bottle in my own house? Which option do you think I went for?
I think possibly the garden.
Stu, what did you think I went for?
Well, I had a message in a bottle before, but this is a bit extreme. Obviously, if this was me, I'd have just gone in the bathroom anyway because I don't care. But saying that, pissing in the garden, he's been like a stray man. It's quite freeing. But we used to do that as kids, though. If we were playing football outside in the garden and we just couldn't be arsed, we'd always just piss in the drain. And then, what was the point? We'd get less shouted at for traipsing mud all through the house than we just piss in the drain, and no one knew. Well, she probably did know, but she just didn't care and just let us do it anyway. So, on the rare occasion when things need to come out, I will go and piss in the drain in the garden like an animal.
Oh God.
Well, but you've got to remember, you've got a tap though. You got an outdoor tap, so you're all okay. So now nothing gets harmed.
That's not true though in my house, because my tap is in the lean-to bit, not actually outdoors. Anyway, I went for the bottle, and you'd be surprised how quickly you fill up a 50 centiliter bottle. So all I'm going to say is I'm glad I've been practicing my pelvic floor muscle movements because that was an uncomfortable few minutes. But yeah, I just I wondered. Basically, I wanted to know would Stu piss in the garden, and yes, he would. And that's first question out of the way.
Of course, I would.
Yeah, I mean, like I've had to piss in a bottle before, and as you say, that soon fills up, and then you're just panicking that you're not going to hit the line. So yeah, I'd go with the garden as well.
The thing is, we've got one of those like sensor lights in the garden, and I just end up being caught on candid camera, like some kind of like I'm hopping, and you hop over the fences going through people's gardens when you were younger. I mean, it might not just be me, but
we always had an agreement that we could lift the fence panel up to go and get the ball back. Every neighbour I've ever had we've had that deal because it saves time and their energy going into their own garden to get the ball back, do it. So it just makes perfect sense. And again, if there was anyone next door who had that privilege, then I'd obviously let them, but they didn't. There's never been that case yet. But have you ever got to that stage? I've seen this done once ever, and this was at Swansea away, where we were on a minibus, and there were the bottles had been emptied, so to speak. So there's a lot of empty bottles there. But they wouldn't stop on the hard shoulder. The driver just wouldn't do it that day, so they resorted to the bottles. So when the bottles started getting full, the option, and they did drink them to piss into them again.
Oh no! From the golden fountain.
Yeah,
great,
Grim as fuck.
Swansea as well.
I think we need to move on from this. The news. Robert De Niro is bringing back his taxi driver character, Travis Bickle, for an Uber advert. it feels disgusting bringing like a character like Travis Bickle, someone who is an anti-hero who, I don't say he's a poster boy, but he sort of is an icon of that era. Stu is nothing sacred anymore.
No, clearly not. I mean, this is ridiculous. And if anything, I know that these people don't care anymore, and they're way past caring about life, let alone their legacy. But it does kind of damage it a little bit, I suppose, because if you see these characters like, when we watch NFL and stuff, and you have them liberty, mutual adverts all the time, and they get ramped in with this kind of nonsense, and you think, well, okay, this is a serious film. It's not like something like, dude, where's my car? And you're getting idiots doing stupid things. This is taking a serious character to promote something, and it's just a bit cheap.
I mean, that does bring up a good question, actually. Like watching quite a bit of American sports and stuff, you do get these adverts, and you see your De Niro's and your Pacinos in there. Like, I've never seen I was going to say Laurence Olivier, but he's dead, so like, that's why you don't really see Sir Ian McKellen, you don't see Sir Anthony Hopkins doing these advertisements in the UK, do you? But in America, it's just give me the money, isn't it? It seems to be a complete different kettle of fish over there.
Jennifer Garner yesterday, flogging something. They've all been, I seen her for a while, and then she turns up mid-play.
Strange. Matt, do you have any affection for Travis Bickle, Taxi Driver?
I mean, don't get me wrong, I've had the haircut more than a couple of times in my youth. But I think it's a bit, I don't know if distasteful is the word, but there are so many other films with iconic characters that could have been used in this scenario. Like, it seems a bit, especially the film being about like this war vet that's off the rails and everything else. And it just, if anything, Travis Bickle would hate Uber and everything it stands for.
Yeah.
As well. I mean, I don't know the advert. That might be the joke. That might be the gag. I don't know. But it just seems like it'd be the complete anti that Taxi Driver tried to achieve. Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't sit very well with me. If it was like something that was initially, comedic to begin with, you'd be absolutely fine with it, but it's just not the film, is it, that you do it with? It'd be like doing it something like along the same lines as like Sophie's Choice. Do you know what I mean? For an advert for Pampers. Do you know, it just wouldn't, it's just not right, is it? It just doesn't work, does it? It's just the wrong kind of film for the wrong product. It's just not right.
It is. I mean, like, the one I thought of who could do that and get away with it would be Jamie Foxx's character from Collateral. Like, I know that's a more serious film, but he's quite a comedic dude, and I think he could pull it off. But it just feels a little bit gross bringing out Travis Bickle, someone who's tied up in so much histrionics and everything. It just feels a little bit grimy, and I don't like it. Last week, the Toxic Avenger film premiered. I'll be honest, I didn't even know that they were making this movie. I don't know if it's a sequel. I don't know if it's a reboot. I don't know where it fits, but I know that Peter Dinklage, who is playing the Toxic Avenger, his character's name isn't Melvin. It isn't the same character name from the original series of films. But yeah, I haven't seen a picture of him, only seen a silhouette, but I'm very excited. But you just know this is never going to hit Cineworld, is it? Like, I'm going to be pissing and moaning on Twitter for fucking months about this movie. Is there any other good cult films that you think deserve a modern day, bigger budget reboot, Matt?
I just want to see Spawn, like a proper version of Spawn, hit our screens, to be honest. Like, the really, I mean, albeit massively irresponsible of my dad, but happy memories of us when I was about 10 or 11 going to the corner shop and always buying an 18. So Spawn, The Crow, Mortal Kombat, everything were just great. And Spawn, like, if I watch it now, I reckon it'll be absolutely horrendous. Like, I remember the CGI, like, demons in hell, like, waving around, like, literally, like, happy inflatable arm guy, whatever it is. You're just being the worst. But I think that character really, especially, like, the inner goth in me that hadn't quite listened to Papa Roach yet, just saw something in that film and its aesthetics and just thought, yeah, it's for me.
That's the one. Stu, anything for you?
Puppet Master, maybe.
That would be fun, yeah.
Something really obscure. I mean, my first thought was Short Circuit, but then they'd just ruin it, wouldn't they? So there's no point. Something equally as cheap and potentially shit if you watch it now. I know certain people are going to slag us for that viewpoint, but yeah, something like that. Be all right. I mean, do you watch the new series of Toxic Avenger?
The new, which one? The musical one they did.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the musical. I've seen the original 3, but I haven't seen Citizen Toxic or the musical. I haven't seen those ones yet.
Yeah, cause, I mean, I remember watching the original years and years and years ago. I mean, you probably talking when I was a kid again.
Yeah.
I don't know how these happens. I mean, it was the 90s, probably that explains it all, but it was rubbish then. So you can kind of understand why this was shadow dropped, but it would be one of them. It would be. I mean, imagine turning up on a mystery film Monday or whatever it's called, the secret cinema things, and this came on. I mean, like, it'd blow your mind.
I would be the only one being fucking delighted. I think in a screening, but there is a secret screening coming up. Is it this week or is it next week? And as soon as I saw the Toxic Avenger was coming up, I was like, it could be, it might be. So fingers crossed I might get away with it. The film that I think is very similar to Toxic Avenger, I think they should redo Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Obviously started off as a terrible series of films.
Well, with George Clooney.
Mated well. Yeah, and Jennifer Aniston, I think, was in one of them as well. Yeah, but like awful. I really enjoyed the cartoon as a kid, much like the Toxic Crusaders, as they were. So, yeah, I'd love to see a big budget version of that. We've got a bit of an update on the strike. Before we get to the good news, we'll start with the bad news. We've had a bit of a homemade celebrity video off of late with Kutcher and Kunis, Brand, and now Drew Barrymore. She invited us into her rather dank-looking kitchen for a bit of a fright after she went to restart her talk show. So basically, SAG told her that she wasn't bound by their rules to strike because she is an actor, but as a talk show host, it's separate rules. So she could continue with the talk show. The problem is her talk show is all the writers are WGA writers. And she was going to ignore that and bring in non-unionised writers just to continue the show. She then went on to Instagram, gave a video saying, I'm going to own this decision. We're going to proceed with it. And she just got absolute shat on, to be perfectly honest. All of the big names within the SAG and WGA have basically called her a fucking scab. So then within a week, she took that video down and then put out a teary video apologising and putting the show back on hiatus until the end of the strikes. Was she right in trying to give some TV to people, or is she just trying to have her cake and eat it here, Stu?
You don't do it, do you? I mean, especially in that kind of world, and with all the nonsense that the people on the strike have had to go through with the cutting down the trees and everything to burn them alive and all that kind of nonsense that was going on, to then just try and make a fast buck out of it, which is really what's happened here. She tried to cut corners and get people back and think that people would just accept it. And it just kind of goes to... It just shows how people are just completely clueless and just cut off from the real world when they do things like this. But yeah, she deserved all the backlash that she got because you don't do it, do you? She tried it and it failed.
Yeah. Matt, the security at the Drew Barrymore show, they were searching people on the way in, and if they found them with any SAG or WGA pins or membership cards or anything like that, they were kicking them out of the studios. Like they knew what they were doing, didn't they? This isn't just an honest mistake by someone trying to do good. This is someone trying to make some money, isn't it?
I don't know about that because, I'm guessing they are worried that people are going to disrupt the proceedings, Just Stop Oil sense of the word with like paraphernalia. I'm guessing is the reason why they don't want that there. Which, if they're going to have the gumption to go ahead with the show, then they are going to do those kind of things, aren't they? Really, they're not going to want it to be littered in the talking points, be the strikes. They want to go as far away from that and pretend that isn't going on. So I can understand them doing that, as shithousery as it is.
That's fair. Moving on to the better news, though, it turns out that Drew Barrymore shat her pants in public for absolutely no reason, because today, Monday the 25th of September, the AMPTP and the WGA have come to a tentative agreement. So it looks like writer rooms will be opening up quite soon. We'll be getting pre-production on new series, and shows can begin to start their early works. It's probably going to be chat shows, talk shows, contemporary news shows, which are going to be coming back first, because SAG is still on strike and they still need to come to their agreement. But we can start the ball rolling on everything else. So it looks like it's probably going to be early year before we get anything new coming in. But this is excellent. This is really good news.
Where do like everybody else fall in? Because presumably production crews have the right to be in a union, etc. Does this writer's strike actually encompass everything in regards to like, production and stuff? Because why are we so obsessed with writers getting a fair pay, but runners, lighting engineer, riggers, everything else? Where's their golden goose for this kind of stuff?
They are covered, but not by the WGA or by SAG. They have their own union, which can sort of do exactly what these have done and pull their labour if needs be. But as far as I'm aware, I think that the people who've been affected who aren't WGA or SAG, they have also stepped in to help those people as well, to make sure that the knock-on effect of them pulling their labour doesn't hamper everybody else as well. So I think they have done their due diligence on this one.
Fair enough.
But I've got to say, I quite like having a strike, because it just gives me a little bit more time to catch up on some series that I've just never had time to watch. Like I've got through Succession and The Bear in the last couple of months. It's been lovely. So yeah, I think we need to have one every 4 or 5 years just to give us a bit of breathing time on these things. Finally, also Monday the 25th, the new Rick and Morty trailer dropped. The voices don't sound terrible. Like they mostly sound like Rick and Morty. If anything, Morty just sounds like he's gone through a little bit more puberty and his voice is cracking. Stu, do you like Rick and Morty, Stu? I don't know if we've discussed it.
Yeah, I watched about 4 seasons of it. So, I only started watching it a few years ago, so I'm not caught up or anything. But when you put that link in earlier, and I watched it, and it's fine, and as long as you're not putting next to each other. But then, if even saying that, you go back and watch the first few years of South Park, and they sound very different to what they do now, because it's obviously 25 years later. So it's not a massive problem for me, and obviously they had to get around it somehow, and this is a pretty decent way of doing it.
Matt, have you heard the new voice actors? What are your thoughts on the situation?
I mean, again, it's one of those, like, I'm harking back, we're talking off air about like Simpsons references, and it can be really jarring, like hearing early Simpsons, especially Homer has this really awful voice in the first couple of series. But it's one of those really where time is the great healer with everything like this, and as soon as people get used to this voice, albeit it's not that different, it will just be a thing in the past. I don't mind Rick and Morty. I think it's pretty funny. It should be up my street in terms of like the sci-fi element, but I've never watched it religiously, like absolutely every episode of a series. It's always just been the kind of go-to when you want to kill 20 minutes. I've never, binged it.
It's an enjoyable series, and it's mostly in sort of like a continuous order. They have the odd episode where it's taken out of it, so you can watch it, like you say, just drop in and enjoy yourself and then move on. But like, they seem to have the worst fan base of any fucking show ever. Like, they disappeared so far up their own arseholes immediately, the fans. They're kind of awful. So I am waiting for a backlash to the new voices, but for my purposes, I think they sound perfectly fine. So that's the news this week. Matthew, have we had any listener questions?
Yes, we have. We've had a couple. One, uno momento. Talk amongst yourselves. Completely forgot because we're after yesterday's debacle. I wasn't unprepared. Right, Andrew Wright wants to know. Appreciate this might be a bit late for the pod, but I'd like to hear your football teams as films. For example, Wolves would be Assault on Precinct 13 FC. 90 minutes of trying to breach the opposition defence just to come away with nothing. So
it feels like Wolves would be like 20,000 leagues under the sea. The way we're going at the moment, we do feel like we're sort of trying to fight against the tide somewhat, don't we?
Or post Snowden, Stu, is there a conspiracy film out there that isn't more apt? After that handball decision that wasn't against Luton.
I didn't talk about it yesterday, and I'm not talking about that again today. We should probably do this. We could do this as a proper feature one of the weeks. You could do the whole Premier League. Arsenal, the Arsenal, what? So the Justice League being a pretender to the Avengers, Man City, something like that.
They'd be the mystery men, I think.
Mystery. I was trying to think when it comes to like Wolves, thinking of something more like Das Boot, like how long drawn out makes it feel like I'm under immense pressure.
It's long, and a lot of people died at the end of it.
Yeah, exactly. David Evans, what are you making of Ashoka so far? Thought it had a slow start, but since episode 4, it really started kicking in. It's not on Andor levels, but seems to be one of the best Star Wars series since Disney Plus. What were your thoughts so far?
I haven't seen any of it yet, so all on you two, I think.
Yeah, and incredibly, neither have I. But this is mainly due to something I was going to bring it up later, but I might as well put it in here. After the incident in February, there's been certain things that I was told that this could happen anyway, and it had already kind of shown its evil face in terms of having some kind of amnesia about things, but only within a select set of time. And the guy said to me, not as from random bloke he can, but the specialist. He said that you're not going to know what you've lost until you come to watching it. And there's certain things that I've had to watch again because I've got no memory of them whatsoever. And obviously that'll come in the next section. But Ahsoka was one of these. Obviously, me and Dave watched Clone Wars, and we're the only ones still who I know who've ever watched Clone Wars. But it's been so long that I wanted to just watch a recap of them episodes that the StarWars.com put out that you have to remember. And I couldn't really remember them that well. And I thought, well, this is probably time and this weird nonsense that's going on as well at the same time. So I thought, well, okay, I'm not going to watch all of Clone Wars again because that's a ridiculous task. But I am going to watch all the things that they listed first and then watch Ahsoka properly because I have watched them before, and obviously that should be before that time frame that happened. So I've just got to get through that first before I commit to Ahsoka because, I've got the little Disney Infinity figure of Ahsoka there. I love Ahsoka. She's great, and she was great in the little cameo appearances that she's had so far. But for this one, I want to do it properly and not miss out because if you have to do a bit of background research on it, I know for well that you're not going to get the same thing out of it, Andy, that me and Dave will because you ain't got the cartoon or CG kind of background in it, but I have, and it's still locked away somewhere. But I need to unlock it again properly before I commit.
Have you watched it yet, Matt?
No, I haven't watched it. I've got a little. Me and Sam ended up watching like Star Wars from chronologically, and we just after a while we were just burnt out with it. There's too much galaxy too far away for us, so we were just you need a little break from this, and I haven't picked it up since. I think we got to the end of Jedi, and we were like, oh. I ain't starting the new ones now. There's too much. I'm too tired of this. So yeah, maybe in the future we'll go back to it.
Yeah, like I just feel like I've got a little bit of franchise fatigue this year. I just kind of want small individual stories, not big 40 films, 100 years worth of nonsense to get through. I just want something nice and small. And yeah, I do want to watch it because I do generally like Star Wars, but I just haven't had the inspiration to really dig into it yet, I think.
That's fair. And finally, Todd wants to know, you find yourself at a table with Nick Cage and he asks you to pitch a movie or show for him to star in. What do you pitch to him for Nick Cage to star in? Stuart?
That's the thing he could do. He can and has done everything. And a Nick Cage only version of Lost. Where he plays every role.
Plays everyone. Intense, isn't it, that? Andy, anything remotely in the real world that might...
I mean, I think if you want to get Nick Cage on board, you can't give him anything too straight-laced. He wants something that's going to be a little bit bizarre. So the first thing that came to my head, it's been a while since I've read Slaughterhouse 5 or any Kurt Vonnegut, but he's got a character I think called Kilgore Trout, who's some kind of like older former army guy who somehow ends up on a different planet and all the aliens are 4D rather than 3D. So like the fourth dimension being time. I think something like that would probably pique his interests to have something kind of batshit. I think that's how you get Nick Cage on board.
That's fair.
You know what? There was a film that I don't know why it's just come into my head. It might even be called House of Wax. Was it Rob Zombie film, House of Wax?
The one with Paris Hilton.
Yeah.
House of Wax, yeah.
Yeah, that, but done properly. And I'm thinking more like, again, we're talking like Willy's Wonderland and things like Colour Out of Space, which we know he's done. But something like that concept, House of Wax Remake 2.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Have you ever seen the original House of Wax, which I think is a Vincent Price film?
Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah, we watched it at uni. It's one of them things that you... Other than that infernal nonsense that we don't need to talk about again.
Yeah. That's so weird because I watched the House of Wax remake for uni. That's how I got to see it. Was like it was like a group project thing that we had to do where we had to design a magazine cover, and for some reason we had to watch films to like get inspiration. I can't even remember anything, but I do remember I stole a joke from Scrubs because they write a script for Dr. Acula, but obviously Dr. Dr. and Acula, and then you push it together and it's Dracula. I remember stealing that joke from it, and like people liked it, and I was like, "Yes, thank you, Bill Lawrence. That's made me quite popular here."
And of course, no one in there had watched Scrubs anyway, had they?
No, of course not. Not back then. It wasn't like the juggernaut that it sort of became.
He said when it was buried on E4 with Bonsai.
Oh God, Bonsai. That fucking takes me back. I haven't seen that film in years. Have you seen the new Takeshi's Castle yet?
I saw the advert for it this morning. I hadn't seen anything about it. I mean, I loved that. I mean, I probably lost more hours to Takeshi's Castle at the game at that time when it was on mid-afternoon on Challenge.
Yeah.
When you're either waking up from a session or you were about to go on one. In the middle of the afternoon, and it was always on. There was Craig Charles didn't do all of them, did he? I'm sure there was.
It was someone else in the first season, and then Craig Charles took over.
Yeah. So
I can't remember who now.
Because I was on this tour before, so I'll watch it, but not with Craig Charles. And so, Craig Charles always did Takeshi's Castle. I went, no, he didn't. I'm sure someone else did. And when I talking about.
I think you might be right, but I can't for the life of me remember who it was.
Takeshi's Castle's back on now.
Yes, that's what we were just saying. Asking if he'd seen the New York. It's Ramesh and
someone else.
The big lad Davies, whose name escapes me.
Yes.
Oh,
sorry.
No. Well, no.
So I had there was a drunken scallywag outside the house, and I had to quickly nip out.
Was it the guy with one leg?
No, sadly not.
I haven't seen him for a while. I'm quite worried.
The characters round your end.
Absolutely.
Lovely. So is that all the questions, Matt?
Yes, it is. Thank you. on the Nick Cage one, send the timeline all out. I think, you know how you get a recurring like villain that turns up for like one series only on a show like Sons of Anarchy, and then like ultimately getting killed off after one series, but they just like they might appear in the last episode of the series, and then they become the villain for the next series, and then they ultimately get off.
Yes.
And it goes on. Like, I think him just as a villain in a show like that for one series only would be great. Just for him to be like an absolute bastard, but then sees his undoing in one like 13 episode series would be quite fun to see.
Absolutely. A bit like Tortuga in Breaking Bad.
Yeah, exactly like that too.
Yeah, excellent.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for getting your questions in. As always, ask them. We will answer them, no matter how silly, or if they link into Wolves as well, we will appreciate that as well, because anything to get our minds off the horror show that is Gazball at the moment.
Lovely, thank you very much. Moving on to Hot Take Corner. I've called an audible on this. The topic we were going to do, I think, is kind of timeless, so we'll revisit it down the line. But over the weekend, it broke that Jeffrey Bezos has gone and done it, and he's put advertisements onto Prime Video. If you don't want to watch the ads, you'll have to pay an extra $3 in the States. I haven't seen what the UK equivalent will be yet, but they have confirmed that this is going worldwide. I think this is the biggest price hike for Prime since it used to be called Love Film. So like, we're going back some time here, since like pre-dawn. It almost feels like when it just used to be send us a DVD in the post, that kind of thing. Is it just me though, or does this feel kind of gross? So obviously we pay for the BBC, so we don't get adverts. The advertisers pay for ITV, so we do get adverts. But with Prime, you're paying for it and you're getting adverts. Or you're paying extra to cover the advertisers. So this is all just bottom line, extra money in their pocket. That's all it's about, isn't it? It feels really wrong putting adverts into streaming. I think I don't think this is going to catch on long term, or at least I hope it's not. Matt, what are your thoughts on this?
I think it's a really silly move for them, because I think a lot of people, myself included, have Prime, and it's just become an accepted amount of money that leaves my bank that I get very little out of a month. Just become like a direct debit, like council tax or water rates. You just have Prime for when you do need something delivered. And, if the very few times I use it, I have an inconvenience, like having to watch adverts, it'd be enough to make you just think, forget it. I don't order that much of Amazon anyway. I'll just suffer it when I need to pay. You know what I mean? Just one more thing to stop people wanting. And in times of financial difficulties for people are cutting back on loads and getting rid of the unnecessary things that they have, and they'll potentially might just see this as another one of those things.
I mean, how many people have you ever spoke to about Prime Video and their response is, "Oh, I've got Prime for the delivery"? I don't know many people who actually watch Prime Video unless it's for the boys. Because let's be honest, they've got very little else to offer you, have they, a product?
And you got the tennis and stuff like that. I mean, they do actually, the sports stuff is actually really good. And the documentaries that they put out, but they're not very often. So to do this, just saying, it's just madness. I mean, especially when Netflix bought in theirs with ads for cheaper. That makes sense, because it's cheaper. So you expect that. You can't just put ads in the standard version and then charge more. That doesn't make any sense. And they've already got this anyway with that Freevee thing. Which, have you ever watched anything on Freevee?
Yes, they've put two very good shows on there, I think, to get people to sign up to the app. But there's very little else. The only other things I've ever watched on there have been films for How Did This Get Made? So they're terrible films. That's literally all they've got.
I mean, how frequent are the adverts?
Every 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, so when you can just go on certain nefarious places and get the Freevee content without the adverts for nothing, then they're just losing out even more. And you're putting things on there, Bosch Legacy being one. I love Bosch. And I didn't watch Bosch Legacy through Freevee because for that reason, I'm not sitting there like being on ITV in 1998 I mean, no choice but to sit there and watch adverts when you can't even fast forward through them. No, it's just not happening.
Mm.
And so I had 2 or 3 months off Prime membership when we didn't have it, and it was an inconvenience just for the amount of stuff that gets ordered from there, having to wait, which is on first of all problems. But then I said, well, if you split it down the middle, it's like $125 a week. It's like a point less a month, if at best. And you think, okay, that's fine. But when you're doubling that, or putting another £3 on it, it's £3, but it's the principle of the thing. It doesn't make any sense. And I'm guessing that this will be reversed, and they'll turn this back again when they realise it's a complete disaster.
It'll be interesting to see, but like you say, I think just for the bog standard one with the adverts, it feels wrong making me pay and then giving me adverts. At least with Freevee, I'm not paying for it. So fine, the adverts are the trade-off for that. I understand that, but it doesn't feel right at all to me, this one. But I think that all of the streaming services now this year have put it up by $2, $3, $4, all of them. And it's, they were supposed to be the answer to cable and Sky Television, and now they're giving us adverts, so they're just as bad as the rest of them, and more expensive.
Can I interrupt for some breaking news as of
Go for it.
about 5 hours ago? Obviously, a huge contingent of this widely successful international podcast are the great nation of India, who listed in their dozens. Spotify for Podcasters put a tweet out earlier today. We're piloting voice translation, an AI-powered tool that translates podcasts into additional languages, all in the podcaster's voice. Experience it today on Spotify. So we could be out there in other people's languages, but with our voices. How exciting is this?
Wow. Speaking in French, but in a thick black country accent.
Oui, bub. So if you're out there and you are from another country and you do struggle with kind of us speaking in our dialectal tones and you want it in your own language, get in touch and we'll see if we can work out this wizardry and see how we can get it into your native tongue.
There was a tweet about this where a guy, obviously it has to be on pre-recorded, it's not on live video yet, but it will be. But there was a guy who's speaking and he's just sitting on his porch, and they even mapped out the mouth as well, so there's no dub over it at all. So it's obviously it's dubbed, but it doesn't look dubbed. It's freaky AI stuff with the mouth, and it looks completely natural. It just looks like he's talking in French, and it looks like he's talking in German, and you'd never know.
Yeah, I think Netflix invested millions in trying to find out these ways of getting films from all around the world that they can show all around the world in their native tongue. Because I know you're quite bad for each year that you don't like to watch a dubbed film, but a lot of people won't watch a subbed film, so they just won't watch that movie. So they're doing it now. They've spent millions on it, apparently. There's been a couple of podcasts about it. I think it was Netflix versus Amazon. I think it was called something like that. It's a good podcast, interesting stuff. But yeah, a lot of money has gone into that kind of research. Crazy. Right, we'll move on to the non-film question, which is yours, Stu.
Right. This was a weird one because it came completely out of the blue. And it was what we would... Well, Deacon Blue, you could say. The one went to see them last week, weirdly enough. It was... Because the YouTube algorithm is always listing, and they're always spying on us anyway. But this came from a podcast. I'm sure it did. Because in the suggested things there was this band called the Gin Blossoms, which I'd never heard of. And obviously that doesn't make much of a revelation to people who listen to this podcast anyway, that I don't know anything about music. But then when I looked into it and you think, well, okay, this band from America in the 90s, it's going to be pretty niche. And I'm sure people are older than us and who like music more than we do, or more than me anyway, know who they are. But I started listening to them and I got kind of obsessed. I thought, how have I not known about these people? And it's very... I mean, we're trying to think of it. we reminded you of, and I think I've kind of settled on an American version of Ocean Colour Scene now. I think listen to a few other songs other than the one that I sent you, Andy, that Hey Jealousy. But so that is the thing. Has this ever happened to you? And if so, what was it? Where you just come across something from a different land or from the past that suddenly enriched your life?
I, after seeing them, hearing about them, not knowing a thing about them, then all of a sudden seeing them at download, and then I was like, oh my God, where have these been my entire life? I've started listening to Bad Religion, like the punk rock band from the 80s. And I wouldn't be able to like name their deep cuts or anything like that, but when you just, it's a complete world to me that I'd never like really listened to before, never gave it a chance. In the same way that an immature me couldn't appreciate how good My Chemical Romance really were when I was younger, and then now with the benefit of hindsight and a more bit of a musical appreciation, realizes they're an incredible band. So yeah, Bad Religion and My Chemical Romance, I might say.
Weirdly, I'd been listening to My Chemical Romance over the weekend. Like, I remember I'd messaged you guys saying like, I'd gone down a bit of a YouTube rabbit hole of just random videos popping up. And yeah, you get your Black Parade and I'm Not Okay. And like, I'm Not Okay is an absolute belter of a song. Incredible. I went to see My Chemical Romance because my ex was a big fan. I think she just fancied Gerard Way, to be honest. So I think that was the reason we went. But I remember just laughing at everybody because they all looked like it was the most important music in the world, and it was just a bit emo nonsense. I kind of wish I could go back and appreciate it a little bit more with an older brain now, though, I think.
Bit of Fall Out Boy as well that time.
Yeah, like Fall Out's fine. But again, like they've got some good songs, some good fun songs. I wouldn't say they're quite on the My Chemical Romance level. But yeah.
I mean, it's a question for another a musicast, really, so don't answer it. But I think My Chemical Romance are very much a band. The band were always been absolutely fine, but it's their fans that make them so irritating to like a neutral,
like Arsenal.
Like Arsenal, basically, except Arsenal are shit as well, like Ramsdale and other.
Sorry, Matt.
Yeah.
But yeah, just I think the fans of My Chemical Romance were definitely something that if you weren't into them, you hated them by proxy because their fans were quite annoying.
Yeah. I don't think that they were a manufactured band, but they gave off manufactured band. But the fans felt very teeny bopperish, didn't they?
For sure.
I think that was some. But I'm not going to knock manufactured bands because I'm quite excited that NSYNC are coming back. Really looking forward to that. It should be amazing. I think the older musician band, I tend to find older musicians by bands that I love. So, like, I mean, I somehow got into Rufus Wainwright, which then led me down a rabbit hole, which got me into Ben Folds, and he did a duet with him, which then pushed me onto all of the Ben Folds music, which got me into someone like Tim Minchin, who is a comedic pianist, who then
Is that the Aussie guy?
Yes, the redhead who did
Yeah.
Matilda, yeah. And then he got me into people like Billy Joel, which I seem to mention Billy Joel quite regularly anytime we talk about music. But so we still like Billy Joel, but also Leonard Cohen as well is another one, because Leonard Cohen's daughter had a child with Rufus Wainwright. They're both gay people, and they decided to adopt a child together, even though they're just best friends. I suppose being rich and famous, you can do whatever the fuck you want. So that's what they did with that. So I think rather than just mentioning Billy Joel for the umpteenth time, I'm going to go with Leonard Cohen on this. So, 'cause it's so rare to find a musician that you fall in love with and you've got their complete collection immediately at hand, because most of the time they're still recording and you can go back and then go on the journey forward with them. But with Leonard, everything was there and pristine and wonderful, and just some of the most amazing stories about what a incredible fucker he was. Like, I mean, I know that the Sun gave Russell Brand Shagger of the Year, but I think Leonard Cohen did all of that and a million times more, but without being a cunt about it. Like Leonard Cohen was just amazing, and musically was exceptional. Some of his lyrics are phenomenal, and I think the reason that a lot of other bands have got some form of prestige is off covering stuff like Chelsea Hotel or Hallelujah. I mean, how many bands have made it off the back of doing Hallelujah? It seems to legitimise them when they have done that work for some bizarre reason. But yeah, Leonard Cohen, I think, was the last one before Billy Joel where I just became obsessed with his work after finding out about him. What about yourself, Stu?
Oh, I was just going with the June because I said that the June Blossoms. It was the one.
Sorry, right.
That they was the one that came from where the question came from. But I mean, there's probably has been a few others, like Maneskin, like we mentioned a few weeks ago, but they are pretty new, really, anyway, and came from that whole Eurovision thing. That otherwise, no, well, they wouldn't have had a chance, would they? Being weird. Well, they haven't got a genre, really, have they? I mean, there's a few that we mentioned in that chat group at the same time, like 311, which is shit, and that's never going to be a thing. The telly has just turned itself on with YouTube. Look, I'm not joking.
If that starts playing 311,
Deep state, man, deep state.
should never have done that film. Like, we're going to be on the radar every time now, aren't we? Right, lovely. Okay, so what are you watching lately? Matt, have you been to the cinema? Have you seen anything good on the telly?
So me and Sam are making our way through How to Get Away with Murder. I think it's got to be about 10 years old now, something I imagine. But ABC's How to Get Away with Murder, which, it means it oozes quality. Except it really does. Like, I'm already tired of it. Kind of 2 series in now. Like, it started off having a really simple but really good format of they've murdered someone. How do they get away with it? Interspersed with every episode is a different case that they're defending while they're in law school, and they go through it. It was a new case every episode. How do they get around it while the story's going on in the background? This series, season 2, is just one case, a couple of cases, and it's just I don't know how they jumped the shark in 2 series. But there's babies that don't exist. There's like everyone's been murdered nearly by now. So unless they're like coming back as robots, I just don't like it's already gone wild. And there's 3 more series after this. But
it sounds like there's an element of Prison Break about it.
Yes,
Season 1 they break out of prison. Season 2 they're on the run. Season 3 they break into prison. Like, how do you get away with a murder across 6 seasons? It just doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how they get exactly that. I don't know how they drag this out. And a lot of it now is like 10 years ago, XYZ. And to like make people younger, they've just gave them ludicrous haircuts and look exactly the same, apart from having like a fringe or like, it's quite bad, to be honest, but we can miss it at the minute. Watching Schitt's Creek like in its entirety this time now, as I kind of dipped in and dipped out when Sam was watching it before, but now I'm watching it like properly, just like episode by episode, just because I need something like, when you just need something with your tea, something quick to watch. And David just did his dance to Tina Turner in it, which is just
so beautiful.
Yeah, it is very sweet, isn't it? It's just a great program all in all, to be honest. Like, I can't it would definitely be, I am closer to being a filthy casual than you two, and so I know for a fact that not a lot of people with my scope of film knowledge and stuff or TV knowledge would have seen it, and it's a real shame because it's just an excellent show, all in all, excellent show.
I remember I tried to watch it when it first came on, and I watched the first 2 or 3 episodes, and I just didn't get it. And it took me until like a year or 2 ago when I finally sat down and watched it. And it's fantastic. It's just not the show it was sold on being when it first came out, I think. Because I expected it to be a bit more like a Parks and Rec height of a comedy, and that's not at all what it is. But it is outstanding, absolutely outstanding show, and more people should absolutely see it.
Agreed.
Stuart, what have you been watching?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, of my semi-amnesia, we went to watch in preparation for the Haunting in Venice. Is it Haunting in Venice? Is that what it's called? The new one? Yeah, the Poirot one. Whatever that's called. Because I watched both of them last year, later on the Orient Express and the Nile one. And I thought, well, I said, you can't just go to this one without watching the first. This is silliness. I know obviously they're not connected really, but still. So we're sitting there, and I had no memory of them at all. And I even talked about them on here. And I thought, well, this is just ridiculous. I went out. This is what got me to thinking, I will have to speak to the guy again. Because I was sitting there, I had no memory of it. I don't know who the killer were, who was killed or whatever. Nothing is all gone. So that was, in a way, enjoyable because I got to experience it again. And then we did the same thing with The Witcher. I mean, I watched The Witcher 2-3 years ago when it came out, and again, talked about it on here, and how the time thing was all ridiculous and how it wasn't in order. All gone. No memory whatsoever. So, watch the first season of The Witcher again and the first 2 of season 2. I presume I loved it this much the first time round. But again, it's like watching it completely new for the first time. And then in preparation to watch season 2 of The Bear, same thing. I even talked about The Bear. I made you watch it. Well, gone. Just gone. So, I mean, obviously that took less time to catch up with, and watching that again was fun. I mean, that was one where I did remember some bits of it, and it kind of came back towards the end. But yeah, it was just craziness. How this something that I thought was gone and done with has now kind of come back with a vengeance. And then there was another part to it as well that I went to finally give Starfield a go. After Matt had talked about how he hated it and still carried on playing it anyway. I thought, okay, finally I'll sit down with it. And I just sat there and I thought, I don't really want to do this. I want to do something else. And I thought, okay, fine. So I went to do something, and then I thought, no, I'm going to play Spider-Man in preparation, even though I'm not going to play Spider-Man 2 until next year. And I was sitting there, and the same thing happened again. I thought, this is not it. I literally sat here with these headphones on, controller here, and I thought, nah, don't fancy. And so I just said to the guy, the random guy in Cannock, this doesn't make any sense. Like, I've hyped myself up all day to play these games, and then when I've gone to do it, it's not happened. And I've had an aversion to it. He went, yeah, this is more common than you think. He said it's almost like it's gaming anxiety. This is the most first world problem I've ever heard in my entire life. And he went, it's actually more common than you think, mainly because it's like a natural reaction to something like some kind of seizure where you automatically think any kind of interaction or flashing lights or anything like that, even though it's completely clear of epilepsy or anything like that. So it's just one of them things that just happens. It's just like a reflex where it's stopping yourself. And I said, yeah, but I've played VR. And he went, yeah, but in what sense? And I was like, well, playing Gran Turismo with a Wii. I went, well, yeah. And he went, well, there you are then, because it's like driving. It's not pressing buttons on a controller. So it's that natural reaction that you've done for presumably the vast majority of life that you've just got a certain thing. And I went, well, how? This is not a thing. And he went, yes, it is. It's called ludectrophobia. It's actually a condition. The fear of games, a branch of ludophobia, just absolutely mental. So
I mean, you piss out of me for having a broken brain when I get motion sickness playing games. You've literally got a broken brain and can't play games now.
Yeah, I've been stopped by the Aldi floor, and he just said, "Oh, it's like any other thing. You just got to do it. You just got to power through." So I think, with that in mind, I'm going to play the some of the games that are the Dark Pictures games, because I played the first one. I know there's Little Hope, and the other one, which is over there that I can't see. And there's another one as well before the VR switchback one. So I was going to play them anyway, but I think that's the plan from tomorrow. I'm just going to power through them because they're not really, they're more like walking simulator kind of telltale games, are they really, more than anything else? So I thought, well, if I power through them first, then work my way up to something more strenuous. It's just a ridiculous situation to be in. But saying that, I got to experience great things again for the first time.
Wild. Absolutely incredible. Right, so I haven't really watched a load of... Not a load in, like, for what I normally do, because I've been playing God of War Ragnarok, like, pretty much non-stop. I've already done, like, nearly 40 hours worth of gameplay across a couple of weeks on it. It's got to be done. I need to 100% it by the end of the year. So I've got plenty of time to get it done. But now you've mentioned Spider-Man, I think I might do that before doing Spider-Man 2. Might do Miles Morales as well, just for shits and gigs.
Well, it carries on from Miles Morales, so you have to.
Yeah. It does make sense, actually, to do that.
And it's a Christmas game.
Yeah, good point. So yeah, that'll fit quite nicely. I went to watch Past Lives, which is the Korean film. I'm obviously going to paint myself as being something of a hipster for the things that I have seen. Shock horror. Past Lives, the Korean film, was absolutely fucking gorgeous. I'm not really a big fan of films that are just a vibe, but that's pretty much what Past Lives is. There's a little bit of a story, but the vast majority of the story is told in silence and whispers and stolen glances and moments. And it's not normally the kind of film I really go for, but this was absolutely stunning. The final scene, I don't want to spoil anything, but just that moment where they stood next to each other, but there's an ocean between them, and it's just silent, and it is so well done. I think this is the director's first ever film. I believe she's a predominantly known as a stage write, and I think you can tell that when you look at how the scenes are all set and the movements and everything within the camera. It's just stunning. I mean, I knew I was going to like it because I'd heard a lot of good reports about it. I didn't realise how much I was going to like it until I actually sat there in the cinema. I just fell in love with it. I thought it was incredible work. And I really want to see more from both the director and the woman who's in it, whose name escapes me at the moment. But she was just outstanding and mesmerising. Really, I mean, if that's not in my top 5 come next year, I'll be very, very surprised.
Yeah, well, it's in my top 5. That's how good it is. And it might as well be called Body Language, the movie. Even though a third of it takes place on Zoom.
It does, but the way they use the Zoom camera and everything like that,
yes, brilliant.
It's excellent. It's so inventive. I really loved it. Another film that I really enjoyed, and I didn't have particularly high hopes on this one, was Dumb Money. I thought it'll be fine. I like Paul Dano. I like Seth Rogen. It'll be all right, if nothing else. And it ended up being this film all about like an almost anti-capitalist agenda of let's take down these fuckers who are controlling all the money. It was brilliant, and Paul Dano was fantastic in it, and Seth Rogen, he's a very difficult person to hate because he's so likeable in everything. But he's a bit of a sleaze in this, and I think him being friends with Vincent D'Onofrio, who is someone who can play an arsehole quite effectively, it really worked wonderfully. There's one part in it where he just gives this monologue on why we hate the fat cats. And I wanted to stand up and fucking cheer in the cinema. It was so well delivered. Like, it gave me that moment in the cinema. You know, when sometimes when you're sat there in the cinema and the screen just feels like it grows and you feel like you're shrinking because you're just getting so absorbed into it. It gave me that feeling, which is such a rare feeling in the movie. And not at all what I was expecting in Dumb Money. So I loved it. I thought it was a tremendous movie.
Like that moment in Barbie with the feminism speech.
Yeah. Sort of like, feminism, but this one was about capitalism.
Yeah.
And they both had America Ferrara in it, so like she's taking on all comers this year, which is brilliant.
Have you watched the documentary about that yet?
About Dumb Money?
Yeah.
Not yet, no. I can't remember what it's called.
GameStop. It was something about the games. Just look on Netflix, you'll find it.
Yeah, I'm sure I've put it on Netflix queue. I haven't started it yet.
Because I watched Citizen 4, like you said, after we watched. Well, we best not mention his name again. That's what happens. But that was exactly what you said, and it does make it a lot better. So I think
Just, isn't it?
in that way, you'll probably not without seeing Dumb Money, you'll enjoy the GameStop saga as well. On Netflix with I think it's 3 or 4 parts.
Okay, cool. The last thing I wanted to mention was a short film that I watched on YouTube called The Disappearance of Willie Bingham. Someone recommended it, I think, on a TikTok video, and it just sounded interesting. So I thought, fuck it, I've got 15 minutes to spare. And it's the story of a man called Willie Bingham, who is the first man to undertake a different kind of punishment. He gets sent to prison because he's a kiddie fiddler, and his punishment is they get to remove a part of his body so many times. Like, he has to give up, I think it's 6 different parts of his body, unless the offended person, the victim, says, no, you don't have to do it. And they cut off his hand, they cut off his arm, they cut off his dick, they cut out a liver. And it's sort of like how much time has to pass before someone, like, before an accused, before a criminal becomes the victim, sort of thing. It's like, obviously, everything that happens to him, at first you're like, well, he's a sex offender, so fuck him. But then you see him and he's got no arms, no legs, and you think, okay, so is he actually the victim now? It's just a really interesting 15-minute suspense horror story that is really well done. Available on YouTube, so give it a watch if you've got a spare quarter of an hour. We'll move on to the individual questions now, and you're up first, please, Matt.
Yeah, I just want to know, simply put, what is the best musical cameo in a film or TV show? So either a complete band or an individual artist. What is the best cameo that took you by surprise and is your favourite, Stuart?
This was easy, and it was obviously David Hasselhoff in the SpongeBob movie.
Of course.
He was completely out of the blue. Apparently he was in the trailer, so obviously I didn't see. But again, I went more for myself than for child at the time, to get on with this, because that I love SpongeBob in a kind of weird way. But yeah, I had no idea that he was in it. So when he's there emerging from the deep in his Baywatch stuff, like, I was probably the only one laughing in the whole cinema. And obviously because it was full of kids, which does sound great, but no.
What I thought your legs first, your hand or your room?
It was a wonderful experience. So Hoff, Germany's finest pop star, bringing down to the Berlin Wall himself, David Hasselhoff in the SpongeBob movie.
Very good. What about you, Andrew?
The one that really stands out to me is Bruce Springsteen in High Fidelity. And I don't know if it's just because I saw it at the right time of life. I think, is it a 2000 film, and I saw it on DVD, so it would probably been 2001. Very much when I was very, very into my music and film. And this is a film about a music lover, so it just felt kind of right. And I'm guessing you're a bit like me, Matt, or at least you would have been in your late teens, early 20s, where every issue in life can be solved with the right lyric. And this is sort of what happens here. He's having this existential breakdown almost. And he turns and asks the boss what he thinks about the problems here. So I think just the appearance of then Bruce Springsteen, also, whilst he's a figment of John Cusack's character's imagination, it's just sort of perfect. And it hits just right for someone who was very much like that at that time.
It was absolutely the best bit about that film, Metal Lords, was it?
Yeah.
Like when Rob Halford turns up, Kirk Hammett turns up, and there's a couple of others. Like, it absolutely was the best bit about that, because it's like the icons of that genre just appeared. And yeah, I can understand completely where you're coming from with that point. For me, it would have to be, well, he appears twice, probably in countless other things, to be honest, but not from Only Murders in the Building, but when Sting was in Quadrophenia and danced. It was absolutely fantastic, and I wish I had as much swag as Sting has in Quadrophenia. And even now, like, anytime I ever anywhere near a hotel that's posh enough to have its own bellhops, I will go, bellboy, and it's like at the top of my voice, and shout it. Hopefully in Sting's earshot, but maybe not. God, I love Quadrophenia. It's been so long since I've seen it. It was weird because I dressed like a mod, but listened to rock and music when I was young. So I didn't really fall into either camp.
You know, you just reminded me of something then, completely out of the blue. Phil Collins in Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
I don't recall me do that.
Yeah, he's actually playing the drums in one of the scenes, playing in the air tonight. Yeah.
One which came to my mind while you were talking, Matt. Actually, there's two. Dio and Meatloaf in Tenacious D. Pick of Destiny.
Yeah. It's funny, in the big sort of the garage over the weekend, I found what I thought was missing, the Complete Masterworks Volume 2 by Tenacious D. So it has a gig on one disc and then like a documentary and other stuff on the other. And I remember the documentary being just hilarious. So I'm going to try and catch maybe 10, 15 minutes of that before I retire this evening, just to give me a little kick of the day before I go to bed, so to speak.
Excellent. Stu, your questions next, please.
So in relation to the bear now giving the chef world and Gordon Ramsay, really, a platform that he's owned of his own for years on end, and now it's been dramatised of life in a kitchen. Is there anything left that hasn't been put on screen before? Because we've had, I mean, you think office workers, but obviously, do you see that as well? They're going to reboot it again. They're going to reboot The Office.
Yeah. Yeah.
No need, leave alone. Yeah, so that is mine. Is there anything left that hasn't been shown on TV or film yet?
I mean, I think they've probably covered most bases, but when I think about it, I don't think we've had a really good nurse drama. If you look at a lot of TV and film, it's always the doctor. The doctor's always the headliner in these things because being a doctor is a sexy job, whereas being a nurse, you're, quite literally having to dig into shit in some cases and really having to do a lot of the heavy lifting. And don't get me wrong, I imagine being a doctor is a very, very stressful job, but all that stress is coming pretty much from one direction. Whereas if you're a nurse, you're having to deal with the patients and with the doctors above. And I just feel like, I just don't think we've had a really good nurse drama. I think that could be the job one, the next one that could be, personally. Because the only other times I can remember nurses is stuff like Nurse Jackie or something like that. There's a bit of a comedic element to it. And I think you could go down the bear route and give it a high-pressure, stressful series about a nurse.
Outside of Call the Midwife, I can't think of anything that has existed that was like of that ilk. For me, it probably exists, so I'll hush my mouth if it does, but I'd like to see some kind of like, not necessarily like a murder show, but a crime-based show around like hotel porters and hotel turn-down teams that like get to see the rooms in there, like maybe they break in or maybe they just see the scandals as they unfold in the hotel, and in the background there can be, I don't know, they're skimming off the top, it's set in Vegas or something, I don't know, but around the turn-down team, the people that you never see, they're in there, are they here, are they there, you will never see them, and just see what that seedy underbelly of the hotel's like. I think that would make for quite a cool show if it could be done right.
I like that, like the Invisibles of the hotel.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
that's great.
And you go as far as, even if it's like everybody, kitchen staff, the turn-down team, the cleaners, the porters, everything, like seedy underbelly, all the stuff that goes on under the, and then you could call it even, you could even like tap into that seediness, but calling it a show, like call it Blacklight or something like that. You know what I mean? Like just to like get out the tree and stuff, and kind of like let that be its hook, like make it sound like an erotic thriller or something like that.
I'd watch that.
Yeah, I was going to say
That's my pitch.
Who pitches to someone? The people. And then there we got writers back again. There we are.
That's it, yeah.
I mean, it's very much more exciting than mine. When mine was like almost. Again, it's not bad or anything like that. It's almost in a kind of Max and Paddy style, but instead of about doormen, about binmen. What? There's never been a binmen show, and then some of them blokes are very, very strange indeed. friggin'. They love it, don't they? They absolutely love it. So, and they've all pretty much always they're a bit of a character. So it's got a perfect channel for 6-part, half-hour each episode comedy drama. It's got it written all over it.
I'd refuse to watch it.
But yeah, that could work, because imagine all the stuff they could find in the bins that could then lead to a story.
Yeah.
That's a question, Andy. You, the Andre Gillard in you hates things that are broad comedy, generally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
That's like,
Yeah.
And there's broad comedy that is disgusting, like Mrs. Brown's Boys. Everybody hates it.
Yeah.
So
No, they don't, though, do they? Because people watch it in their millions every year.
yeah, well, people are stupid, aren't they? Where do you lie with? So let's not Peter Kay in terms of stand-up, because that's incredibly broad, but in terms of like Max and Paddy, Phoenix Nights, that kind of stuff, has that ever tickled your taste buds?
I've seen them. They're okay. My issue is I don't really like Peter Kay. So watching it, at the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, but he's a prick and he's not that good. But I kind of like all the other people who were in it with him. So I think the others carry him through that show for me. Dan Kitson, I love Dan Kitson. Dan Kitson's one of my favourite stand-up comedians. I think he's fucking tremendous. And barely anybody knows who Dan Kitson is. But he's the guy, he plays like the div kid mostly in season 2, the big glasses and the hair or the skin. I think he's just wonderful. And he's so out of place in that because he's far too good for that show. But that's the only reason I sort of tolerate it. Whereas Max and Paddy didn't really hit the mark for me, because it was mostly just those two.
But it's also a world that you're not really inhabited either, is it? That kind of clubland kind of vibe.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, I really like Max and Paddy and Phoenix Nights, like, but it doesn't veer into the main. It's mainstream, but doesn't veer into the mainstream like Peter Kay's comedy is very mainstream. Like he's almost on the Michael McIntyre levels of insufferable.
Yeah, so I think he's worse. I don't know if it's because he's bigger, but and I think the thing, when I first heard Michael McIntyre, he was on John Richardson's Six Music show back in like 2006. And he was very funny, but I'm a big John Richardson fan, so I think it worked that's how I was introduced to him. I wouldn't say I particularly like him, although I do quite like his wheelie show on a Saturday night. That's quite interesting, and I think I'd be really good on it. But that's by the by.
Yeah. No, I don't hate him. I don't wish ill on him, but he's not really for me. But comedy's very subjective, isn't it? I guess it's what you like. I've been watching quite a lot of like Mickey Flanagan through like TikTok and stuff. Like he's appeared once. I watched it once, but I shared it once, and now it's been flooded. And then I was going through the app that shall not be named, and one of his tours came on, and it was like a Wembley-sized arena tour, and instantly it takes away your credibility, doesn't it, when you play a huge stadium? I don't know why it does. It just does, though, doesn't it, with a comedian? The second you like play to a huge NEC or Genting or whatever it's Resorts World Arena, it does kind of take your credibility away as a comedian. I don't know why.
I remember seeing Russell Howard in what was the Wolfront, which is like a large school auditorium for people who don't know Wolverhampton. I saw him there, and then I seen him at like places leading up to then doing the NIA, and he had pretty much the full run of the NIA, and it was packed. And like, I still like Russell Howard, but once you've hit that point, you're not really for me anymore. I like things a little bit more niche, and he's very much, for everybody, I suppose, now. And they do lose that a little bit, don't they, when they cross that line?
Remember when I went to go see, remember we went to go see Tom Stade, and he was like, you know what I fucking love? Playing the Glee Club in Birmingham for the 14th time on a Sunday night. Yeah, God, it was good. Friend of the show as well.
Yes, of course. But I always find they are the better gigs, where there's you and maybe 200 other people and no more. It does feel intimate and you feel part of it. Like when Richard Herring called me a twat. Like, I was just in his vague direction. So obviously he was just hurling out an insult. But it felt like he was, I mean, he did point at me. But even so, it felt so much more intimate. And that does work a lot better than, as you say, someone in the Genting Arena or Wembley Arena.
Yeah, I got done by Al Murray on my 22nd birthday at the Civic. So we was on with 3 rows from the back, from the front. 3 rows, 3 rows from the front. And he with my long hair, I had a big badge on there because they went with my dad. And he went, "Oh, go on, it'll be funny." Well, no, it won't. He'll just draw attention to us. And of course, he did. And we obviously got quite rinsed for the entire show, as Al Murray things tend to do. But again, he's never seemed to have gone bigger than that, really.
Mm-hmm.
Despite his countrywide popularity of that act, it's always been them kind of things. And he's at the Birmingham Alexander again next year, and that's a sensible size for that thing. If it went any bigger, it wouldn't work.
Yeah, absolutely. We should do an episode on comedy and stand-up comedy and stuff, I think, in the future.
Oh, I remember for that.
Yeah, I've got a couple of plans for got a conspiracy episode to do one.
Oh, really?
And when we do QuestionCast 69, it's going to be the sexy episode.
He was right.
We need to try and think of something for that one, I think. But yeah, but we should try and squeeze in a comedy one as well, I reckon.
Emmanuel, carry on. The confessions.
The answer is the sex scene in 302, whatever it was called, with Eva Green. Damn it.
That's it. We'll have to have a think or ask ChatGPT, see what they come up with. Right, anyway, last question, my question. Which is the worst film franchise that has at least 3 movies to it? Stu.
Well, this was really easy. I'd be astonished if you've seen all of these, but even seen one of them, I'm doubting. It's Look Who's Talking. Absolute shit. All of them. They're all bad. And that whole time period, you think 3 Men and a Baby / Little Lady, good, fun films. This, absolutely atrociously bad. I didn't laugh at it at the time. I didn't find it interesting at the time. I watched it again about 5 years later, didn't like it again. So I've seen, and for the third time about 10 years ago, when there was a trio of them on. There must have been Christmas or something when they were on all together. And I watched 2 of them back to back, which is probably a stupid thing to do. And they're still shit now. And then I looked at IMDb and none of them have got above a 5.4 or something like that. Just all shit, all of them. There's no redeeming features about them whatsoever. Bad.
Holy shit. The budget on the first film was $7.5 million. The box office return, 297 million.
Yeah, I know that people love them. I don't understand. I know it's the Kirstie Alley thing when she was fit, but still, I don't understand it.
Yeah. I mean, I remember enjoying it, but I haven't seen it for like 30 plus years at this point, so okay. But yeah, I've seen the first 2, but I couldn't remember anything about them really. Matt, what do you think's the worst franchise?
Well, controversy strikes here because, like, 2 of all of them are great, but then the rest are disappointments more than terrible films. And I'm going to have to say Jurassic Park. I've come to the conclusion after all, because I was so disappointed with the latest one, and I started watching a bit of it again, thinking I've given this a bum deal, and I really haven't. It was so boring. And then I thought to myself, actually, outside of the first Jurassic Park and then the first Jurassic World, they're all pretty shit. And I've seen the light on it now, I think. Not to diminish how good Jurassic Park was and how good Jurassic World was, but the rest of they're just not very good, are they, at all? And I think it's more out of disappointment than anything, because I was so looking forward to it and I felt cheated. In the same way that, like, I think whatever the last of the Planet of the Apes films wasn't quite what I wanted it to be. And don't get me wrong, I'm not expecting the gorilla in a policeman's uniform pointing the gun at Charles Heston or anything like that. But it wasn't the film I expected it to be either. So yeah, Jurassic Park's getting the chop for me.
Yeah, that last one was. He was more boring than anything else. And the whole thing about Blue with a baby and fucking hell
Moths.
Yeah, it went too far for a film about resurrected dead dinosaur frog things. Which if you base it off the first one, they are. Yeah, I can't even argue with it. I mean, I like them all, but they're entertaining in a kind of shit film way. And Dave's going to hate us for this because it's Dave's bow. But yeah, you're right. Jurassic Park 2 is bad. Jurassic Park 3 is bad. Fallen Kingdom I thought was pretty shit as well. So yeah, there probably is. There's two. There's the first one, a 10. Jurassic World, probably an 8.5, almost a 9. And then the rest, you could pretty much throw a 6 over all of them, at best.
I mean, I didn't love the first one, but as we've mentioned on this before, but I've only seen it once when it was at the cinema. So, like, yeah, I've got no real affinity to it, and I didn't love the 2 of the reboot ones that I saw. Like, second one was shit, and the first one was just fine. Well, I think that's probably because I've got no love for the series. And I've seen one of the other sequels from the original run, but for the life of me, I can't remember which one it was. So, yeah, I think that's actually a good shout. There I've got one or two beloved films, but the rest are dirge. Mine, like, I was going to go for Twilight, but that's such an easy fucking dig, isn't it? Like, it's not really written, like, the source material shit, so of course the films are going to be a bit crap. So I think the one that I think's got probably the worst hit ratio, there's one good film out of, I think there's been 12, there'll be 13 within a month's time, but Saw, I think, is just crap. Like, the first film, I think, is one of the best modern horror films. It's as good as anything else that you've had in the 21st century when it comes to horror. It's excellent. But every film since then has just been about the traps. There's never really been much of a story. The story element of it always just feels like it's been tacked on. Like, we're going to string together all these gruesome murders and we'll find some kind of thread to put through all the movies. And the fact that the actual killer has been dead since the third film, I think it is, third or fourth film, like, how have they strung this shit out for so long? And somehow they still make money, and to the point where they're bringing out Saw 10 in a few weeks' time, and people are, like, genuinely excited to see it. I don't get it, because none of the films have been interesting. And part of that might be the fact that I've never actually seen a Saw film in the cinema. Like, the only time I saw the first Saw film on DVD at university, and then every other Saw film I've watched, it's been when I visited the water-based bandits in the Cove, that sort of area. That's the only time I've ever watched any Saw films, because I'm not going to go and waste petrol getting to the cinema because they're just shit. So yeah, that's it for me.
There is your answer. That with an audience, it's much more enjoyable. That doesn't make it a good film, but as a thing, I was asked about this earlier. So have you asked you want to babysit next week, so we're going to watch Saw 10? Well, no, because you haven't seen Jigsaw or Spiral, and they all link together, apparently. But of course, I've got them over there. But I can admit that they're bad. But they are, with an audience, incredibly entertaining in a weird way. But again, you're talking about the event, not the film.
I mean, I don't know why you're going to see Saw 10 when the creator's out on Friday. I mean, that's the film that's out this week. I absolutely cannot wait for that one.
Yeah, we going Friday anyway, aren't we? I thought you were going at the same time.
I haven't seen yet.
That was my plan. I was going Friday afternoon. Yeah, that was my original plan.
Okay, send me the seat number and I'll see if I can book the one next to you then. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one. Excellent. Right, okay. Next week, I'm really excited to watch this film, and it's one of the few sequels. I don't think we've done any sequels of Nick Cage films until now. Not that I can remember anyway. But we'll be watching The Croods: A New Age. The first film was such an unexpected joy of a movie that I'm really looking forward to watching this one. It's available to stream and rent and buy. Just check justwatch.com to find out when you can watch that film. But if you've seen that one, get in contact. Let us know what you think of the movie. And we can have a look at maybe retails on the podcast. Make sure you've got us on the Twitter or whatever you want to call that fucking app at this point, at Cage Fighting Pod, and any emails to cagefightingpod@gmail.com. Please make sure you're subscribed on whatever podcast that you're listening to us on now, and a review would be phenomenal. So thank you very much for joining us this week. We truly do appreciate it. Apologies for being a day late, but we'll blame the American government for that one. For this week, Matt, would you like to say goodbye?
Take it easy, everybody. Look after yourselves. Have a spectacular week ahead. And remember to get in touch with us when Wolves are letting you down once again.
Stuart, would you like to say goodbye?
Don't get in touch with me about Wolves. It's bad enough for talking about it once a week anyway. But gaming anxiety is real, apparently. So don't suffer in silence. Goodbye.
It's goodbye from me, and remember, be excellent to each other.